Recap YouTube viewers, please click like and subscribe as we unpack a Super Sunday clash at Old Trafford. Welcome everybody, and there's no better place to begin with this episode of Qué Golazo. First of all, delighted to say that I am joined by Mike Lahoud and Ian Joy. The episode begins right now. Mike, how you doing, my friend? Great to see that you're still in that photo booth.
Oh man, I'm smoking a spliff that you can't see, and yes, I said spliff because we can on this podcast. So happy, cheek to cheek, cheesing. Cannot wait to dissect this.
Oh, you know what? I'm loving the punky edge to this pod already, and who better to bring back into the fold than Ian Joy? Lovely to have you, my friend. How you doing?
JJ, it's great to see you. Mike, great to see you as well. Thanks for having me. It is an absolute honor to be here, and there's been so many great games, a lot of controversial talking points, by the way. This weekend got me a little hot, so I can't wait to get stuck into it.
Exactly. Well, we don't have to look any further than the king of controversy picking through. So let's get started. So no place that we can begin other than Old Trafford, Man United against Arsenal. So I mean, honestly, just so much to unpack there. Massive win, obviously, for Manchester United. And you know, Mike, I mean, you must be absolutely over the moon with the result.
I feel like a proud father of a team of young superstars in the making. Geez, this was a defining sort of game for Manchester United. In the preview to this game, we had talked about maybe this game coming a bit too early, a lot of new faces. And I think let's start at the back. That partnership between Varane and Martinez is looking better and better with each game. And you want your defenders, you want that center back partnership tested against the best. And they're playing against the top team in England today, and they made them look a bit average towards the end of the game. Arsenal looked brilliant in the first half, but the longer the game went on, they bullied Gabriel Jesus. And in the midfield, this game was down to the brilliance of Christian Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes. They were excellent for 90 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely delightful to see the team clicking, you know, in a way that we really haven't seen for such a long time. But Ian, I'm going to go to you first for your thoughts specifically on Antony. Obviously, you know, the bar has been set very, very high, both based on his performances with Ajax, but also, you know, the price tag on him coming in, the fact that Cristiano Ronaldo is still there. We'll get on to CR7 in a little bit, you know, but what did you make of his first steps as a Red Devil?
Well, Cristiano Ronaldo on the sidelines, especially after he stroked home that goal, was like a proud daddy just with a little golf clap on the sidelines. I loved it. I thought it was great. And I actually think that the move for Antony personally is a good one because we want to see how good this kid really is. We want to know how good he can become. And clearly, Manchester United are a team that are trying to get back to the big stages, trying to be obviously the great that they once were. And I think adding a piece like Antony is a great bit of business. However, it's a lot of money that's been spent on him. And to have that type of price tag be thrown in at the deep end in a big game. I mean, we're talking a top of the table clash against a team that is bang on fire and being able to produce. Not easy to do for any player, but I think that Antony really just kind of quietly edged his way into the game, thought a few nice touches, tried to pull off a couple of skills that didn't quite happen for him. And just before the goal, he did that little trick that was sort of clapped away from the Arsenal fans in a way. It looked good, but really not that good. This is the Premier League. You're going to have to bring something a bit more if you want to have an impact. And moments later, he got the goal, and what an amazing impact that was. I think the overall performance from him was good. It was a nice introduction, and I'm actually really surprised and very, very happy that he was thrown into the starting 11.
And Mike, do you echo those sentiments? I mean, is he living up to the billing so far?
I think it's really hard to say living up to the billing for the price tag, but to get a debut goal, the magnitude of the game, first class. The finish itself, his debut was down to the finish. So many big money transfers bottle it. The composure you have to have, the execution. He opens up his body. Marcus Rashford, we're going to get to him in a second because he's a big talking point. But Marcus Rashford tees him up, and to have the composure, to have the awareness to set himself up, settle down, and open up his body. That was a first-time strike waiting to happen, and that gives you a glimpse of potential things to come. He did that at Ajax, and he brings that to United.
All right, CTA for the viewers. How do you guys rate Antony's debut on a scale of 1 to 10? Now, Mike, I'm glad that you mentioned Marcus Rashford there. I'm going to go to Ian first for this one. Ian, what do you make of this rebirth for Rashford under Eric Ten Hag? I mean, obviously, this was the most impressive performance so far, but, you know, he's a guy who it feels like he's kind of needed this breath of fresh air for the last 12 to 18 months now, especially after such a difficult Euros with England.
Yeah, Mr. Manchester United, right? I mean, many would say Mr. Great Britain, the way he's handled off the field issues and how much of a spokesperson he has become off the field. It's incredible to see him obviously take so much pressure on his shoulders and be able to perform. And even through the difficult times when Manchester United are struggling, clearly he's going to be a target. Now it's important for him to be able to produce with a new man at the helm. You've got to bring your performance week in and week out. For Manchester United, when they're trying to challenge once again at the top of the table, you got to bring your performance. Otherwise, very quickly, and we also heard that there was rumors that maybe he might leave the club. I think he's Manchester United through and through, and I'm so happy he decided to stay. I'm so happy that Manchester United decided to stick with him and continuously give him opportunities to help United back on track. Thought this performance today was very good. Thought he was very, very good on the first goal. And, you know, a great pass, obviously, out wide for the finish. I thought the midfield really helped him, got a lot of touches on the ball. He was battered left, right, and centre by that Arsenal defence, and he kept his composure, although leading up to, I think it was the second goal or the third goal, I can't remember which one it was, where he just had that little clash with Gabriel, and he kind of lost his composure just for a split second, and then all of a sudden got his goal. And that's what I want to see from Marcus Rashford. You do your talking on the field. Off the field, the way you handle life and how much of a spokesperson you are, we admire that. But when it comes to football, only your performances will do the talking for you. And I thought this performance today was very, very good from Rashford. And of course, the goals is only going to bring more confidence.
I think it's a big call from Ten Hag from the moment go. You played Ronaldo in that Brentford game. It didn't work out. His head's not in it. He looked a bit more of a flash of who he is today, a bit more desire. But to put Marcus Rashford at the number 9 position was a big gamble from the start of the season, and now it's starting to pay off. Remember, Marcus Rashford did not start his Manchester United career as a winger. It was as a number 9, and he had some big goals against the likes of a Manchester City who were winning the Premier League at the time, and he was very young doing so, winding back the clock in his young career to his best. Pace, composure, execution on that second goal for United. I loved his movement. I think having Ronaldo not in the team, you're getting the best out of him and Jadon Sancho. There's a connection. It's almost telepathic. And Marcus Rashford, hold up play and bringing other teammates in. The assist on the Antony goal, the awareness, back-to-back games where Rashford has set up the goal that set the stage for someone else to put the ball in the back of the net. And Bruno Fernandes, Christian Eriksen, they now know they have a player who is regaining form that it's almost instant. As soon as they get the ball, if there's no pressure on either of them, the ball's in behind for Rashford. And Arsenal, a team that likes to press, a team that likes to win second balls and be very reactive once you break down their first press, they keep a high line. And credit to Rashford for recognizing where the game was going to be won and lost. And that is runs in behind, and just love what I saw from him today. And hey, Marcus Rashford, I can finally say he's back.
He's back, baby. And you know it, Mike. It's confidence, right? If you have a lot of confidence, and of course, as a finisher, you want to score goals. You have to score goals to gain that confidence. But this comes down to results and the performances and also what happens in training sessions, the confidence that Ten Hag is giving a kid like him. Obviously, this enthusiasm for football again, this love for the game, where I thought last year he just looked like he was lost. He looked like he lost love for the game. And now you see this love coming back. Scoring goals is a confidence booster for him individually, but I think as a team collectively, you can just see there's an absolute buzz around Manchester United right now. I absolutely love it. And I thought United overall, listen, it was a good performance. It was not a great performance, and it wasn't a great game. It was a good game today, and both teams really had some big chances in the game to go and win it.
Progress nonetheless. Well, we've got a 7 out of 10 rating for Antony from Matt Osmond, but he's saying that he still wants to see a bit more of him taking on opponents one-on-one and was a little conservative. I'm sure he's going to have time in his Manchester United career to grow into it. But, this is not just about Manchester United. It's also about Arsenal, because this was Arsenal's first real test, and obviously they failed it in terms of the result. Obviously, there were certain things that changed over the course of the game, but one question here being put forward: did Arsenal miss their midfield depth today, such as Partey and El Neni? Ian, I'll let you go for that one first.
Yeah, I think any time, I mean, obviously leading up to this game, there was doubts about who was actually going to start this game. Zinchenko, obviously, clearly, we were expecting him maybe to miss this game. Then all of a sudden he trains and now he starts this game. And then in midfield, Odegaard, was he going to start the game? Was he not going to start the game? There was big question marks, and I can't imagine that helps preparation going into a top-of-the-table clash, especially for a club like Arsenal, who are looking to obviously maintain that record at the top of the table. I think it's frustrating, but what Arsenal have done, and you also noticed that in large phases of the game today, they've got quality and depth now. So if a player misses out, another one steps in, and it's pretty much business as usual. But today was a big test for Arsenal. I was really, really intrigued to see how well they would handle the situation defensively. Could they still create good opportunities offensively? And I thought it was a good game today. I thought Arsenal played well in phases of this game. They looked really dangerous. I mean, they looked the better side for long periods of this game. And I think that midfield, okay, that's where Manchester United pretty much won the game. Arsenal giving up possession in midfield, United on the counter-attack, one great run in behind, little cutback or a cross or a side pass from Eriksen, whoever makes that run from midfield. And that's what essentially killed the game off for Manchester United. But Arsenal will learn a lot from this game, no doubt about it. They've got a quality squad. I really like Arteta. You can see his passion. But I think, obviously, not having a full squad training ready to go in preparation for this game does not help at all. Certainly doesn't help with the chemistry. But I think that maybe the scoreline favours Manchester United a little too much. It was probably a little bit closer than it ended up.
When you look at games, at the end of the day, goals change games. If that Martinelli goal stands, then I think Old Trafford's in for a shock. Remember, Manchester United, they were on the front foot, and we've seen that when they played at Old Trafford. We saw that in the Liverpool game, is teams that survived that first blast. Brighton did it. They survived that first 10, 15-minute just surge from United, and then the game settles, and then there's a little bit of doubt that starts settling in for players and the crowd. The crowd is on edge for a goal so they can breathe a sigh of relief. Well, Arsenal gets what they think is a goal, and I think it was a correct decision from the referee, but also incorrect in the use of VAR, because I've never seen that before, where the ref calls one decision and completely goes and says, you know what, I'm going to re-referee the whole thing. It's almost like playing a movie in real time and saying, you know what, let's scrap the whole movie, toss it in the bin, and reshoot the whole thing. You don't do that in sports. But as a United fan, you can do it every week as long as it's for Manchester United. Thank you very much. But I think back to that moment, that was a decisive moment for United because they were let off the hook by VAR, and they go on to get a lifeline. And you have to take advantage of what you're given. They get the goal before half, which is a big moment. You're taking momentum in. Credit to Arsenal, though. Very different Arsenal team from last year. Young guys, young players stepping up. Saka getting the goal. And the reaction after going down at a difficult place to play, I think Mikel Arteta is going to be happy with that. In terms of giving up the goals, he'll look back on that and say, hey, we need to tighten up things. But as Arsenal fans, I would not be too down in the dumps. This was an opportunity missed, but I still think they're going to be in the conversation of top four by the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, we had a comment earlier, somebody saying that it won't reflect well on Arsenal. I mean, I think it would be easy to jump to too many conclusions too soon. Arsenal have been very impressive so far this season, you know, both in their ability to blow teams away and grind out results. And I think sort of missing out in a game where it could have gone one way, could have gone the other, with regards to the Martinelli goal that was ruled out. We'll get back to discussing that in a little bit. But, you know, it felt like, you know, it could have quite easily finished in a draw for me. But, you know, at the same time, United took the chances when they came. And I think the thing as well is that, you know, United are now starting to take some teams by surprise, whether it was their slow start to the season that kind of lured other teams into like a false sense of security. But suddenly there's this unity, this energy. The players are playing for each other for the first time in a long, long time. And, you know, we see a team like Arsenal who are also in a very positive spiral. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, it's quite easy to forget that there are still perhaps little fine tuning and adjustments to be done to this team. And Arteta will certainly be able to use this kind of result because, you know, let's look at it. You know, they've still had a very, very good start to the season. It's not, you know, going to do their chances of finishing, you know, certainly in the Champions League qualification positions any harm, and it certainly doesn't rule them out of being potential title contenders just on the back of this one result.
No, it doesn't. And obviously you're seeing that the Premier League is very competitive this season. It's not going to be just that one horse race or maybe that two horse race that we have seen in previous years. It's going to be very difficult for Manchester City, Liverpool to win games. You've already seen that already this campaign. And for Arsenal to have such a great start like they had, clearly they're filled with confidence, and all the media talk and the fan talk about, can this be our year? It's too early to get carried away with it. And eventually, at some point in the Premier League campaign, you're going to really get a knockdown. And this was it for Arsenal. And you hit it right on the head there, JJ. This was a good performance from Arsenal. It wasn't as if they turned up to Manchester United at Old Trafford and didn't play. They played. They played with confidence. They made mistakes, and they were punished for their mistakes. I think that was the difference right there. It was a closer game than obviously the result shows. But I think it was a good performance from Arsenal. And again, clearly lessons to be learned from that type of performance, but Arteta will take a lot from that game. He'll learn, he'll improve, he'll move on to the next game. Obviously, got Europe to deal with as well, and try to see if they can continue to pick up some more positive results.
Well, we've got a very passionate Ian Joy with us today, and I'm glad because we've got a bit of controversy to pick through next. I mentioned the Martinelli goal being ruled out. I'm just going to put it to you straight this way, Ian. Did the referee commit a clear and obvious error in ignoring the foul on Christian Eriksen, who, by the way, I thought was very impressive and has been very impressive since joining United on the side?
Yeah, I think I'll back you up there. I thought Eriksen was great again today. I mean, not only his pass and his link-up play with Bruno Fernandes was excellent, absolutely excellent. Those runs from midfield, I mean, so dynamic, so dangerous. He looked great. He looked very good. Now, going back to the controversial talking point, it will always be Mike got it spot on. This is a big talking point because this changes the whole story of the game as far as I'm concerned. Had Arsenal got that goal, it looks a very interesting game from Manchester United's point of view because they dropped their performance. They started off great, conceded that goal, and really were in a bit of a lull. So the decision itself, I find it very, very soft. And watching Manchester United kind of give up possession in midfield. They did it 4 or 5 times today. Eriksen getting caught in possession of the ball, even though he's trying to do things offensively, it will happen. But that type of decision, to go to video review, I mean, it is such a soft call. And I love the way that Arsenal took the goal. The goal was absolutely phenomenal. Martinelli finish was absolutely brilliant. Pass through from Saka, excellent. That's what Arsenal are in that type of position when they win possession of the ball. Just brilliant. But I think that the decision itself is very, very soft. Now, VAR steps in to this type of decision, and even when you're watching it over and over and over again, like the referee did when he went over to the sidelines, I'm still finding it hard to agree with the decision. I think it probably is a foul, but it is incredibly soft of a decision.
Yeah, as a United fan, I breathed a sigh of relief because I had my hand in my head thinking, here we go again. This is when reality hits, and this is when my bartender at the local bar downstairs will have me on speed dial saying, I've got the cold one for you. It's coming right up. When I look at Eriksen and how he got stuck in that play, Martin Odegaard, I thought he had quality moments for the goal that he set up. I think it was the pass in to Gabriel Jesus. He's a left-footed player. In 2 touches, just side foots it around the defender and slips it into Jesus, and Saka gets the rebound. But on that play, his ability to collapse and back press defensively, it's one of the most underrated things that he's learned under Mikel Arteta. He's an out attacking midfielder when he was at Real Madrid, young player with loads of potential, but a player like that doing the work defensively is going to cause problems for a deep-lying playmaker like Christian Eriksen. I agree with you, Ian. I thought it was a soft call, one that United fans all around the world, and Old Trafford benefited from. And with the referee, this is my tiff with VAR. The inconsistencies of the letters of the law, it's still open to interpretation. Some referees are going to say, you know what, that's a soft call. Some are going to say, you know what, I got it spot on. At the end of the day, refs are refs, and VAR, why do we have it? It does my head in. I say that even though my team won, we're going to have these mistakes. And this was a massive weekend for VAR decisions gone wrong.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mike. And one update, just as we've started the podcast, you've got PG, MOL accepting that VAR decisions at Chelsea and Newcastle were wrong and that they will fully cooperate with the Premier League review of the incidents. But like you said, it's not the only controversy this weekend. You've got that Coutinho goal against Manchester City that was ruled out. As we already mentioned, you've got the Newcastle goal. You've got the McAllister Golazo ruled out. You've got David Moyes blasting that absolutely rotten decision to disallow West Ham's late equaliser against Chelsea, as we mentioned already. So, I'm going to throw it over to you now, Ian. Is it, a pretty black weekend for the Premier League in terms of some of the refereeing and officiating?
You think? You think, JJ? I mean, this is the talking point, right?
Just slightly. I mean, I'm trying to pump the brakes on my Villa heart bursting forward after seeing Coutinho slam that shot in and then realizing that it wasn't going to count.
Listen, I thank you for winding me up and sort of fishing me in here, talking about the energy. I might pick this camera up and throw it when I think about some of the decisions that happened this past weekend. I mean, video review, I think, has really helped the game. I really believe that. Overall, I've seen different leagues handle it differently. Followed closely the Bundesliga, obviously played in Germany for 5 years, so I follow the league closely. And I think the German officiating is perfect when it comes to video review. And the way they handle it in the Premier League, with the inch-by-inch looking of an offside call, and then obviously video review stepping in for some big-time controversial decisions this weekend. I mean, just absolutely mind-blowing sometimes. It makes me not want to have it in the league anymore, because I think of the big picture of the game. Why are we watching? Why do we love this game? It's an entertainment for us. We love it. We've played it, we've covered it for many a year, and we've supported it all of our lives. So we love the entertainment value of the game, and we want to see more goals. I don't want to see an inch decision, a trailing leg. I mean, I'm talking about a soft trailing leg take a goal away from a team who's fought so hardly to get back into a game, or to see a world-class finish into the top corner being taken away for an offside that potentially wasn't even interfering with play. Video review stepping in far too much in the Premier League. It's driving me crazy stopping it. Obviously, Mike will be able to tell you this as well. When you're an analyst or a color analyst or a play-by-play and you're calling games now that video review stops, the first thing you do instead of passionately giving your goal call is you look to video review. You look to the referee. Players are no longer enjoying their celebrations anymore. First thing they're doing is worrying about video review and what the referee's thinking. Is it going to be called back? So it's kind of ruining the game. It's ruining the flow of the game. It's certainly ruining the enjoyment. And this weekend, I would actually categorize as an embarrassment for the Premier League the way it was officiated.
I am so glad you talked about the flow of the game, because I think of teams like the West Hams. I think of the underdogs. How many times do we see VAR go for them? A lot of times we see the big teams get VAR given in their direction, especially when they're playing at home. I'm talking about you, Real Madrid, because you get on my nerves when VAR goes on your way. But that's for Champions League, for the pod. When I look at this weekend, the West Hams of the world, the Aston Villas, if those decisions are left to the flow of the game, I mean, those are massive points. Those are massive points for a team like West Ham, who is just almost rooted to the bottom of the league. So many players coming in. If you get a point against Chelsea away from home in a derby match, that breathes life into your season, and maybe you go on to get 3. And for Aston Villa, the Coutinho strike, wow, what a worldie. The inconsistency, the differences in interpretation that's all around the world. My biggest worry is that when it comes to the biggest tournaments, we're talking about league play in one bad weekend. When it comes to the biggest tournaments, we could end up having an absolute disaster. I think of the FIFA World Cup coming up. I think of the Champions League, AFCON, VAR, potentially being implemented there. It's becoming the focal point of the game now, and not playing football.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, I'm sure, unfortunately, we know that this is not the last time that we'll be discussing officiating and questioning VAR's role in things. But let's move things on a little bit. Like you said, it was a massive weekend. There were some big results, and none more so sort of in the race to avoid being the next manager to be sacked, because you've got Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard picking up some really important points with their results with Everton and Villa, respectively, over the weekend. But Brendan Rodgers and Leicester being given an absolute hiding by Brighton. Mike, was this Brendan Rodgers' last game in charge of Leicester? Because it's such a messy situation that they've had a really difficult start to the Premier League season, financial difficulties. It hasn't been easy to replace, quality players like Fofana, on a shoestring budget. And it's going to cost Leicester money to get rid of Rodgers as well. But also at the same time, when you look at some of the attitudes, in the match, I'm talking about players like Morrison. It really doesn't fill you with confidence for Rodgers in being able to turn that ship around.
Yeah, our producer, Des Norris, hit it right on the head. When I looked at the team sheet, when you have a big game, and Brighton is a big game now with how they've started and where they continued from last year, and one of your most iconic players over the last 5, 6, 7 years is on the bench. That tells you, and it's a striker, when you're not scoring goals and your lead striker is on the bench, there's massive problems. And Ian, I'm sure you played it with Jamaican guys and Jamaican teammates. I had a Jamaican teammate in the latter stages of my career, and he used to say the perfect thing when the season wouldn't start well and the manager's job was on the line. He would say, "Son, the blade is warm." For Brendan Rodgers, the blade is getting piping hot, because I think it's his last potential scene in the Premier League. It's not. It's gone from bad to really, really, really worse. So we'll see, but I think it could be time.
Listen, I think the decision to bench Vardy is okay, because you got obviously a legendary, iconic striker at the football club who's going to influence the media and the conversation if you're losing games if he doesn't play. But when you're not, when you're not scoring goals, that's a big problem for a club like Leicester, who are bottom of the table, haven't won a game. They're looking to try and obviously kickstart their season. I thought the strikers did well today. I thought Patson Daka in particular, I mean, what a fabulous finish he put out there. Nacho as well, getting a goal. So offensively, I didn't see much of a problem with Leicester, especially in the first half. Second half, obviously different, but I thought defensively, and it's the body language. Maddison in particular, I was watching the performance today, and I just saw somebody who has no enthusiasm, no confidence, certainly doesn't believe in what's happening at the football club. Almost looks like he was kind of proving a point out there in midfield, not tracking back, giving up possession of the ball. And then maybe Johnny Evans was the only one who was being a true leader, trying to inspire his team and really shouting at the players to try and get them going, especially when Maddison gives up possession of the ball for a goal. It's almost as if he didn't care. And that, to me, is just inexcusable when it comes to teams who are at the bottom of the table. If you don't have fight, if you don't have desire, it is so disappointing. But I think that Brendan Rodgers, as you mentioned, there's no doubt he's on the hot seat. There's no doubt that his comments last week, he inspired, obviously, this conversation about him being on the hot seat, about the lack of commitment, the lack of funds available, the lack of changes. And it's a big disappointment. I'm a big fan of Brendan Rodgers. I think he's done a great job at that football club. But it's a real shame to see the state that it's in right now, as far as him being unhappy and the players not really playing for him.
Well, the record in the Premier League so far for managers who have gone after the club and gone after ownership and saying how unhappy they are, undefeated. The last manager that did that, his job was gone within a week after a really poor result. And this could be the last scene for Brendan Rodgers if you're ownership, because no owner or no ownership group likes to be criticized, especially in the media. Those are conversations, and that's just frustration building up. Those are conversations that happen behind the scenes. And I think of the players that have World Cup implications, the players that are trying to fight for their place, and a player like Yuri Tillemans, his place is not cemented in the Belgian national team, with other players being focal points, with other players getting good results and being on teams that are winning. If you're him, where do you go? What do you do? Because you had your opportunity for a potential move to be on a team like an Arsenal, to potentially be on United, although United had everyone. I think, Ian, you and I probably got texts that we didn't see. The United wanted us to come to the team in the transfer window. But if you're him, what do you do moving forward? Because it's a big gamble on your international career to stay and with a project that isn't really working as much anymore.
Well, you mentioned the transfer window and big gambles. Well, Nottingham Forest, who were Europe's big spenders over the transfer window, they squandered a 2-goal lead against Bournemouth, so their difficult start to the season continues. Both City and Liverpool dropping points in draws. City drawing with Villa, and Liverpool drawing the Merseyside derby with Everton. Spurs eking out a 2-1 win against Fulham. But the last talking point before we finish the Premier League chat for me was Brentford absolutely thumping Leeds 5-2. Jesse Marsch seeing red, Ivan Toney with a fantastic hat trick, prompting speculation that he could be called up for England. What did you make of all of that mayhem, Ian?
Well, I'll start on the Jesse Marsch conversation. Listen, he's done a great job this season with Leeds United. I love his energy. I love his passion. Obviously played against Jesse, and he's crazy. Man, the guy's nuts. Worked with him a little bit on CBS shows leading up to Champions League games. I spoke to him a lot during his time when he was at Leipzig. And he's, this as well, Mike, and JJ, you worked alongside me on these Champions League shows. He's a passionate guy. I mean, the guy just lives and breathes football, and he bleeds passion for wherever he's at. He's all in. And that's what you're seeing from Jesse Marsch. But I think he's got to calm down. He's got to be very, very careful, because this discipline, or lack thereof with discipline on the sidelines, doesn't bode well when your players lose their discipline out there on the pitch. And that might end up happening with a Leeds United side who are obviously trying to win as many games as possible. And the way that they play, the fireball attitude and energy that they have out there on the pitch, you've got to be a true leader for them out there. So I think you'll hear Jesse, and you'll probably see him this week, try to play down the media, try to calm his players down. That was a bit of an embarrassment. Not a good result for them, but this was another top-class individual performance and a team performance as well from Brentford. Tony is a phenomenal player, and what a great finisher he is. I mean, he is an out-and-out goal scorer, and if you put him into any team in the Premier League, the kid would score goals. That's how good he is, and maybe the biggest compliment I could possibly pay him. But I love watching them play football as a team collectively. The fans get into it. They are well coached. That was a fun game.
I am thinking back to my Manchester United, because I felt really responsible. And I don't know why, as a fan, when things go the wrong way, you take on responsibility. Like, I shouldn't have worn those shoes. I should have worn the other shoes, or I comb my hair this way. But I go back to when Brentford humiliated United, and Brentford's just their work rate, and they're physically imposing. The discrepancy between them and Leeds United, it looked like boys versus men. Just the physical disparity between the two teams was immense, and their ability to get forward on the counter. And when you have a striker like that, when you have an attacker who is in form in that game and just had a ruthlessness, and it showed after the game. He went on Twitter and he, was probably a bit salty, saying, "Hey, this goes out to everyone who didn't put me in your fantasy Premier League team. How do you like me now?" And Tony, I was listening. I put you in. I'll captain you next week because that was my mistake. But first-class performance by him as an individual, and first-class performance by Brighton. Big lift at the start of their career, or the start of their season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to put my hands up. I put Brentford down as a team who could be in difficulty at the bottom of the table. So I'm being made to look the fool at this moment in time. But fingers crossed that they can continue these kind of performances, because it is really impressive. And I kind of worried for them that once Eriksen was taken out of the mix, they might struggle for creativity. But scoring goals, certainly not a problem when you've got someone like Ivan Toney in the mix there. So fantastic stuff so far, guys. We're going to go to a quick break, and then we'll be back for more goodness, including some Serie A chat.
The UEFA Champions League. 9 months of heart-stopping, hold-your-breath exhilaration. While Mbappe shines in the city of lights, Benzema's racking up the hat tricks, and the Reds want more magic in Liverpool. This ain't amateur hour. This is the best of the best of the best. This is the UEFA Champions League. Stream every match live on Paramount Plus.
Well, not only is CBS and Paramount Plus the home of the Champions League, it's also the home of Serie A as well. And you can stream every minute of every game quickly and easily. Sign up for your very own account right now. Do it today to an avail of 1 free-month trial by going to paramountplus.com/Italy. And tomorrow is the final day of the offer, so get it done. Click the try it free button and use the promo code Italy for instant access to the best Italian club soccer available across all of your devices. Visit paramountplus.com/Italy and start streaming today. Guys, we had an absolute feast of matches over the weekend in Italy. Let's start with AC Milan at 3-2 Inter. Did the better team win, Ian?
I thought it was a great game. I thought the derby was an outstanding game. The atmosphere in the stadium was brilliant. I think the better team did win on the day. And I think you have to criticize Inter Milan for the way they defended in that game. It was really, really poor. I mean, the way they were sort of static defensively was a real shell shock for me, and it's something to really be worried about when it comes to Champions League, because they got a big game coming up against Bayern, and that doesn't bode well for them. But when you're having a derby game against a team that's obviously just had great success in the domestic league, they are champions for a reason. I didn't expect to see that type of performance from Milan. And it was very, very good. They obviously tried to create as many opportunities as they could for Leao. They obviously tried to create as many opportunities as they could for Giroud. And I thought Leao's finishing in particular, a little bit fortunate with the first one. But the way he performed, he's now starting to really kickstart his season, because he started off slowly. So I know it's not many games into the season so far, but started off slowly. And if you're going to introduce yourself this season and have an impact, there's no bigger occasion. There's no bigger game to have that impact than in the derby. So outstanding game. I thought the finishing overall was very, very good on the day. And the game itself, high energy, high tempo. And it tells me a lot about Italian teams going into the Champions League week as well, JJ. I'm telling you, this is tough groups the Italian teams have been drawn into in the Champions League. But when you see a game like this ahead of a Champions League game, I think Milan will be really looking forward to the Champions League this week.
When you look at all the Serie A teams in the Champions League, most of them, all of them except for Inter, have revamped. Inter added Lukaku, who wasn't there. That was a big miss for them. I think he was out with a thigh injury ahead of this. Massive miss. And it showed because they got pressed in their end. I was impressed with how Milan pressed them. And this is why you go with young players. Young players have the confidence. Young players don't care one lick. Ian, you and I were young players at one point. When you have confident young players, they will go and press anyone. Doesn't matter if it's Inter Milan, derby game, Madrid, Champions League. And it showed on the night. The numbers that AC Milan was willing to throw forward, that's a big difference from last season to this season. Last season, I thought defensively they tried to be solid and hit on the counter, but this season their transition has been really impressive, and that's why you pay the money to have a player like De Ketelaere. I was impressed with him, his ability to occupy spaces behind the shoulder of Brozovic. Now Olivier Giroud, when that ball goes into him, it invites Rafa Leao, it invites Messina, it invites other people to go up. When you have a playmaker that you know what? When that ball goes from front to back, I know that someone's there to win the second ball, and I know as long as I make a run forward, he's going to find me and other people. Tonali thought he was good. The assist to Leao, he probably hit the ball a bit too wide initially for Leao, but hey, luck has to be on your side. As you said, not the cleanest of finishes, but I think the fact that he hits it with his left foot and not his right foot catches the goalkeeper off guard, and he put it in the only spot he could have put it because it was a tough angle. And Olivier Giroud, I think Christine Coupeau was calling him the sexiest man in football. Well, he was the sexiest striker inside the box in Serie A with his finishing, his hold-up play. I mean, just looking.
Don't know. I think Carlos Soler's got something to say about
that. That's true. No, but just I'm so excited to see Olivier Giroud, the most underappreciated striker in the world's game right now, back at his best. And when I think of Olivier Giroud doing what he's doing in Serie A, I think of what it could mean for the French national team. What do? Big Ben's doing this thing for Real Madrid, obviously the Champions League glory. And Giroud, if he has another good season with Milan, what do you do if you're Deschamps? You can't have both, or can you have both with Griezmann on the bench?
I mean, that's a big discussion, talking about the French national team with someone like him, obviously scoring goals. It's a great discussion to have because they've got so much quality now, and JJ obviously knows that more than anybody else. I think that going back to the derby game real quickly, Inter Milan are starting to have a goalkeeping problem right here with Handanovic. And I don't know if you both agree with me. I'm intrigued to hear what you've got to say about it, JJ, but Handanovic is looking older now. Not as fresh, certainly not as good shot stopping. Looked pretty poor in the derby game. And I think defensively, obviously, it doesn't help when your three centre-backs in front of you are playing like traffic cones, not even moving. I mean, that to me was an embarrassment. The second goal in particular was embarrassing. And I think there's no doubt that we'll probably start to see Handanovic maybe just take a few minutes out, and we'll see Onana get his opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's really both of you have put forward really interesting points. So to answer your question about Inter to start with, I mean, I was surprised that they sort of hung in there tooth and nail and avoided selling Skriniar this summer, because with the sort of sums that were being discussed with PSG interested, that money could have, rejuvenated a number of positions in that Inter side if they'd really been smart about it, identified the talent that they wanted to bring in, to boost several positions across the pitch. And it feels now like Inter have kind of stood still while their other rivals, have strengthened, rejuvenated their teams, like Mike was saying. And it for me, I think that this could be the season where Inter get outstripped. Champions, very recently, but they haven't really pushed on. It's almost like they've tried to hang on to that amidst their financial problems. And had they embraced that, as quite a lot of clubs around Europe are having to do these days, if you can get into the sort of, being able to sell when the player's value is highest, and then cash in, bring in younger players who are well scouted, in order to rebuild yourself, especially sort of with an eye to the future, because, Handanovic, it's not like he's got that much resale value at his age. You need to be able to, bring somebody in like AC Milan did with Maignan, having lost Donnarumma on a free transfer. So, it does really feel like a reckoning moment for Inter, and whether they're going to be able to move forward and remain competitive for Champions League places. With regards to Italian teams overall in the Champions League, I'm cautiously optimistic for Milan. I feel like they're experienced, in certain areas, but also, they have enough young talent that sort of needed last season to mature. I think they're going to be much better, much more at home on the Champions League stage this season. And I'm hoping to see quite a big group stage performance from them. I thought it was fantastic to see Simon Kjaer getting back on the pitch as a substitute late on in the derby. So, big things, I hope, for Milan, in the same way that we saw Inter sort of do better second time around after being crowned Italian champions. Now, one team who I don't think I'm going to be too impressed by in the Champions League this season, I'm seeing them in action on Tuesday. That's Juventus. They labored to a 1-1 draw against Fiorentina. Guys, what are we expecting from Juve? I'm going to let Mike jump in first on this, because it feels just so underwhelming. I mean, players were rested. It's a big game, obviously, against the Viola, but, for me, it feels like something is not quite working. I've noticed there's a lot of pressure on Allegri as well on social media. It kind of just feels like he's already resigning himself to having to battle for second place in the Champions League group behind PSG, and fighting it out with Benfica instead, who, incidentally, have had a fantastic start to the season.
Juventus fans should be worried because their key players that they signed are unhealthy. They're injured right now, and that has a massive impact.
And then Paredes comes on and loses a penalty in his first game.
yeah. Well, it's not the start that Allegri and Juve fans hope for, or these players hope for, and that happens sometimes. Every player wishes they can go out and score the first goal like Antony in their debut. Unfortunately, it's not to be. Angel Di Maria, at the end of the day, when they get him healthy, you will see an uptick in form. He is just the golden goose of this entire Juve project moving forward. And Vlahovic, he as he goes, this Juve team goes without Di Maria, but him on the bench, it's always going to be a tough ask. And maybe they did that, yes, the Champions League. But I go back to my point I made. The last Fiorentina player who went to Juventus and came back to Florence, it was not a pretty sight. Baggio. I think back to that is maybe they did that for Vlahovic's own security, peace of mind.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. I'm always trying to pick on things that can actually get after you about, but I completely agree with you on this point. It all revolves around Vlahovic. If he doesn't play, they look a different side. If he doesn't play, then you're worried about where the goals are going to come from. And they got players, Juve. They've got a squad full of players. I mean, they're good group of players. I think Allegri's under so much pressure, as you pointed out, JJ, and it's not just social media. I think the Italian media is probably the worst. The Italian media are getting after him right now for his formation, for the signings, for starting 11, for resting players. I mean, anything you could think about, they're getting after Allegri. The players who went out there at the weekend was still good enough to really challenge against this Fiore side. Obviously, offensively, I think there's a bit of talent there with Di Maria. No doubt Milik is a proven goal scorer through multiple leagues. However, not necessarily a Vlahovic-type goal scorer. And Kostic has struggled as far as I'm concerned so far. But for Juve to only have 4 shots in a game against Fiore, even if it's on the road, is a massive, massive disappointment. Team has just got no confidence right now, no chemistry, clearly under pressure and completely underachieving. So I'm completely with you. No chance they get first place in the Champions League. They are fighting it out. And you're absolutely right. They are battling for second place.
Yeah, good point from AJ though as well, because as much as we're looking at this from a Juve point of view, Fiorentina, very, very underrated side in Serie A, and looked like they could be good for potentially breaking into the Champions League spots last season. Wasn't to be. Who knows? Maybe this will be their campaign. But the team leading the way at this moment in time, Napoli, and they won 2-1 away at Lazio, so definitely a team to keep an eye out for, as well as Jose Mourinho's pragmatic Roma side, who are away at Udinese later on. Right now, we're going to turn our eye to the rest of Europe and look at some of the headlines. And we've got Ian on the show, so a fantastic Old Firm clash, but Celtic coming out on top, quite dominant. Were you surprised at the way that this one played out? I know it wasn't necessarily the result that you personally were hoping for.
Well, no, don't jump to conclusions just yet. I'll just turn my accent into a wee Scottish one here. No. Listen, I don't have a team here. I'm not Celtic or Rangers. Obviously, growing up in Scotland, it was always difficult, and you always had to kind of choose this blue side or this green side. You all see where I played in my career. I ended up playing at St. Pauli. So for me, it was a great game. I covered the game, and it was absolutely fantastic from Celtic. And to lose Furuhashi so early on in the game with a shoulder injury, it looks like he's going to be missing now for this Real Madrid game. That was a big disappointment, and I was wondering how Celtic would react from that. But their tempo, their energy, how they play in midfield, the chances they created caught Rangers completely off guard. I thought they were absolutely outstanding. Abada, outstanding. Giacomakis came on for Furuhashi. He was very good as well. But Rangers completely not at the races again. At Celtic Park, they seemed to really struggle under Van Bronckhorst. They were 3-0 down in Van Bronckhorst's first game at Old Firm last year at Celtic Park. But you've got to give credit to the way Ange Postecoglou has got his team playing. They are dynamic. They are dangerous. They are better than they were last year. And they're champions for a reason in Scotland. So I think with the atmosphere, Celtic Park, the way they played coming off the back of this result, and I know it's the Champions League coming into town, Champions League holders, Real Madrid coming into town, it'll be a tough game for Real Madrid because Celtic, they're a good side. And they proved how good they were domestically against Rangers at the weekend once again.
Question for you, Ian. If you're Gio Van Bronckhorst, what do you think he needs to do to revamp his side? I mean, a lot of losses, a lot of key figures. Calvin Bassey, Joe Rebo not in the team anymore for a team that reached the Europa League final. What do you think he needs to do to revamp this team to be able to compete with Celtic in the SPL?
Well, the problem you're seeing in Scotland right now is obviously it's a two-horse race once again, and the Champions League, getting to the Champions League for both of these clubs, the group stages, brings even more money. So there's even more of a distance between the rest of the teams in the Premiership and Rangers and Celtic. Rangers are right now a selling club. Celtic are right now a selling club. They're not spending a lot of money, but what they're doing is they're enticing these players from different regions in the world. If you look at the Japanese culture and the Japanese players that were brought in by Postecoglou, many unheard of, and all of a sudden superstars. And what will happen is if they keep on playing like that, they will be sold. And Rangers obviously did so well under Steven Gerrard. You bring in a legend, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, back to the club. They have great success on the European stage. Getting to a Europa League final was outstanding. And they relied heavily on home field advantage. I mean, outstanding atmosphere at Ibrox always. Travelling fans obviously help, and Rangers travel in their numbers. But they've still got a good team. They've had a discipline issue with Morelos, who was recently out the squad, brought back in at the weekend. He was a sub. Colak has been very good in his place. He's been a very good signing, and watch out for him on the European stage. I think Rangers will be okay. They did struggle, no doubt about it, in that Old Firm game. They were just completely beaten by a better side who wanted it more. But I'm really impressed with what Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has done. Good to see James Sands play, but didn't play well this past weekend. And although he's pretty much cemented his place in the starting lineup, Rangers will be okay. I like Ryan Kent. I think they're a dangerous side. They can be dynamic. They can get forward. They missed Tom Lawrence at the weekend. He'll come back into the side. Rangers will be okay. They'll make it interesting for that second place in the group, no doubt about it, in the Champions League.
Yeah, and you mentioned Real Madrid coming to town in the Champions League. They warmed up for this one with a 2-1 win over my beloved Real Betis, Los Beticos, first drop points of the season, but it was a close one. And I think that is the kind of match that they needed in preparation for what is going to be a tricky task in the Champions League. Wouldn't you agree, Ian?
Yeah, it's a tough one for them because going away in that first game, we all know sometimes Real Madrid can struggle in the first 2 or 3 games in the group stage, and then all of a sudden they wipe everybody out. But going to Celtic Park is going to be a tough one for them. And JJ, I think they've started slow, Real Madrid, even though they're winning games. Obviously, they're doing pretty well at the top of the table, and it's hard to criticize them, but it's late goals that are rescuing them. It's small victories that are winning them games. They've made some improvements, I think, in midfield. Casemiro, even though he's a complete hero of that trio in midfield alongside Modric and Toni Kroos, I think him stepping out, Tchouaméni coming in there, I think it's a very good player coming in. And Real Madrid, I think, have improved just a little bit. They're just slow getting going sometimes, and you wouldn't recognize that from the way they're sitting at the top of the table domestically. But Real Madrid are a team that are just so well coached, so well organized. I think their moves have been very good. They don't spend a lot of money. I know they spent a ton on Tchouaméni, but if you go through the last couple of years, they didn't spend anything last year. Nothing. I mean, they
wanted to spend big this summer.
Yeah,
they wanted to. They wanted to improve. They wanted to get better. How do you improve when you're the Champions League holder? How do you improve? And they look at where the experience is, where the young players is, who they have coming through, Castilla getting into the team. And what they've done once again is they've just put together a terrific squad that will challenge once again for the Champions League. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and an interesting point on that, based on something that was mentioned actually by Marca, Real Madrid have generated 340 million euros in sales over the last 7 years from their academy, and these sales put Real on par with Benfica, Ajax, Monaco, and Atleti's academies in terms of the sales, which is a really interesting observation, as was your point about Real being slow at the start of the season, because if this is what slow looks like, I think there's a lot of elite European clubs who would love to settle for the same engine that Real have. But on that, we saw Real get beaten by Sheriff last season, and they still went on to win the Champions League at the end of the day. So, maybe that's the best way for them to get into it, to warm up. But I can see Mike was itching to add something to the chat there.
No, this is the Real Madrid way. When they've won La Liga, there's always drama. There's always leaving it late. Even in the run-in last year, I look at the game against Sevilla, who we have to talk about after this. They were dominated. They were very fortunate, but they took 3 good opportunities. Real Madrid under Carlo Ancelotti, yes, under Zidane, they were world beaters. They had the class. They had Ronaldo, Bale, Benzema. But under Carlo Ancelotti, it seems like they need to get punched in the mouth first, or have some sort of, just something to play for that gets them disgruntled, and then they're coming to life, and then they're beating you, and you're scratching your head thinking, how do we lose to that team? We were the better team. And this is going to take some time to adapt. I mean, those are some key pieces. Casemiro gone. The fact that this is only a few years out of Ronaldo, and yes, Gareth Bale, he's still swinging. What's his handicap on the golf course? It's still really, really good. But this is still a team that is transitioning, and now they're transitioning into playing younger players. Camavinga, his athleticism in the midfield, it's a different dynamic than having Toni Kroos, a player who did not start this game with Champions League around the corner. They're trying to set the stage for moving beyond 2 of the elder statesmen who have been the linchpins for their Champions League success over the last, 8 years.
Yeah, really good observations from both of you, and exciting as well to see how Real are sort of trying to bridge this need, to rejuvenate their team, freshen it up, while they were very publicly chasing Kylian Mbappe, who they ended up not bringing in this time. We'll see what the future holds on that one. I don't doubt that they'll go back in for him before long. But, moving on to another team, as Mike said, in Spain, who are in great difficulty. Sevilla thumped 3-0 by Barcelona. Lewandowski brace, Koundé clean sheet and 2 assists on debut. It's looking pretty grim for Julian Lopetegui right now. I mean, I've gone in hard on Sevilla already a couple of times this season. I feel that it's quite a journeyman makeup to their squad. I don't understand some of the decisions that have been made, like letting Ocampos go when I still feel that he had something maybe to offer. And it just feels like, this is perhaps not Monchi's finest moment, and it feels like, this Sevilla side now needs something new, a breath of fresh air. I've seen people suggest Pochettino already. How much longer are we giving Lopetegui before Sevilla, look to axe him in?
I think it's going to be interesting. And you mentioned it. When you sell players or you give up players like they have done, I mean, they've made some money. There's no doubt that the money coming in is business orientated. It's smart decision making from outside. But to be able to replace those players right now in this type of transfer window or transfer market is insane numbers. So protecting himself financially, making sure they make the right financial moves, and also trying to keep players happy is not easy anymore, JJ. It's not easy for any coach, because you got someone who maybe gets a word from his agent, maybe gets a word that Barcelona are interested in you, and how do you keep a player like Koundé happy if you say, you got to stay at the club because we're going to need you at the bottom of the table this year? It's just impossible nowadays. Players hold all the power because the numbers that are being thrown at these clubs too good to turn down. Obviously, results don't bode well for them. It was another embarrassing performance. I thought Barca this weekend were very, very good. They obviously created a ton of chances. They were fun to watch. What concerns me most about the Sevilla side is the lack of belief in their coach, the lack of belief and confidence in one another anymore. I mean, you're relying on an old-timer trying to create opportunities for you against the Barcelona side. I mean, you're relying on a 30-plus-year-old, and that doesn't bode well for a Sevilla side. So I think you're right. I think we could see changes coming at some point. And the only reason, though, JJ and Mike, is I think the results are just not going to come for Sevilla, and it's going to be very, very difficult for them in Europe as well. But Barca look good as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Lewandowski, not bad signing.
Yeah, when I think of Sevilla, and very quick point on them, you give away pretty much your whole back line. Sevilla is a team that is predicated on being solid defensively and maybe getting the odd goal here and there. And against big teams, they have been good defensively over the last couple seasons. When they won Europa Leagues, when they were that pesky team from down south in Andalusia, you couldn't get rid of if you're Real Madrid or Barcelona or even Atleti, it's because they made it so frustrating for you. Now you could drive a Cuban missile through their two center backs. Diego Carlos, you see the importance of him. I know he's out for Aston Villa. Sorry, JJ, I had to mention it. And also Jules Koundé. This was the Jules Koundé revenge game, showing you the assist he had to Lewandowski, the diagonal ball, Jules Koundé making a case. I feel like I'm a French national teamophile, but hey, he's making another case.
You wouldn't be the only one in this chat.
Yeah, but just that is a world-class ball. Koundé showing that he's more than just a good 1v1 defender. Just his ability to get forward. I think he's going to thrive in Barcelona because they need an outside back.
An interesting final point on La Liga as well. An update after we said that Iñaki Williams' incredible run of making 236 consecutive appearances was at risk due to an ankle injury. He actually ended up starting against Espanyol to keep that record going at 237. So very, very impressive. Before we move on to final thoughts, guys, two of the big dogs, who will be in Champions League action this coming midweek, involved in, quite mixed results over the weekend. Bayern dropped more points against Union Berlin. Lionel Messi teed up Mbappe twice in a 3-0 win over Nantes. That's 4 assists for him in a week because PSG also beat Toulouse midweek as well. Vitinha picked up an injury, but it sounds like he's going to be okay. And you've got Marseille just breathing down their necks as well. What are we expecting from the big guns like Bayern and PSG? Are they going to start with big victories, or are we going to see one of them perhaps struggle? Ian, I'll go to you first, obviously with an eye on the Bundesliga.
Yeah, thanks for going to me first, because I'm sure you've already heard the criticism I'm receiving for saying that Bayern Munich are going to struggle in their league this year in the Champions League. I didn't expect them to struggle domestically. Even though they haven't lost a game, they're still not conceding a lot of goals. They're just struggling to win games. When you take a Lewandowski away from a team like Bayern Munich, you're automatically taking away plus figures in goals. I mean, astronomical figures in goals. And to be able to replace that killer goal scorer, we're talking hundreds of millions now. We're not talking about a $75 million striker anymore. Sadio Mane is not a Lewandowski. He's not that type of goal scorer. So it's going to be interesting to see how Bayern Munich handle the Champions League. They've obviously got a very difficult start against Inter Milan, who will want to do better after what they did against AC Milan in the derby game. I think it's going to be tough for Bayern Munich this season in the Champions League. Domestically, they'll still be champions. I don't see the other sides really causing enough problems. I don't see enough from Dortmund, the Gladbachs, the Freiburgs, the Union Berlins, the teams that are up there right now competing. I don't see enough from them to say that they can do it all season long. And certainly the squad in depth is not as strong as what Bayern possess. But the Champions League is a different animal, like you both know. So I think Bayern Munich will pretty much struggle in the Champions League. Although I'll finish on this point. I know, Mike, you're going to jump in about both, but I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing, JJ, from Marseille. They've really got me hot on my seat right now, and I think they're going to make a few stirs in Europe, no doubt about it.
I think the custodian heard you talking and criticizing Bayern because he just popped in when you started talking, Ian, and gave me the look of death of like, is that Ian just saying stuff about Bayern? Because this is a Bayern team that I agree with you. You said that it's so difficult to replace Lewandowski, but they're replacing Lewandowski with a guy who has thrived in the Champions League in Sadio Mane. I think that is where he can really just strut his stuff. And that partnership between he and Thomas Müller is going to take time. And I think they have a group that he can get quality goals to just get that consistency. Lewandowski, before he came to Bayern Munich, when he was at Borussia Dortmund, he had the trampoline, which was that game, that four goal game against Real Madrid that showed he could get it done in the Champions League. And also he was doing it in the Bundesliga. And it was a transition from one team in your league that you were competing with against Bayern in the Bundesliga to another team, the Hollywood team in German Bundesliga. You know the league better than anyone, having played in it. I agree with you about this is their domestic league to win, but I think Sadio Mane, if he can get hot, if he can get in form and get more settled in the Bundesliga alongside Jamal Musiala, England, you missed out on a gem of a player. I think he's gotten better and better since he came into the first team, and I think he's a star in the making. For PSG, I'm intrigued by this team because everything has gone just to perfection so far, but they haven't come up against Marseille. I can't wait to see him. I'm actually thinking of going to a Marseille game when we come to Europe in October, JJ. So you got to give me the tips, the do's and don'ts, because I hear the Velodrome is a place to take in a game.
It absolutely is, and it's bouncing right now, as Ian said. OM, a lot of questions were being asked coming into the season. Igor Tudor falling out with pretty much everyone at Marseille, but I mean, I said this, a couple of weeks ago when people were asking me about, whether Igor Tudor should be seen as kind of like a bad, influence coming into this group, or whether he's, just basically trying to get some of these guys out of their comfort zone. Yeah, it was an achievement to finish second in the league last season. I thought they were disappointing over the end run in Europe. Obviously, losing Dimitri Payet was a big blow, but I think if, you have somebody who comes in there, lights a fire under them, they're going to be able to, potentially go toe-to-toe with PSG, or at least keep up with them in terms of points. I think it's fantastic to see teams like OM and Lens, real classic names in the French league, sort of keeping pace with PSG at this moment in time. Like Mike said, it's almost gone too perfectly so far for PSG in terms of the way that they've seamlessly, adapted to life under Christophe Galtier, yet still sold over 20 players. Expect more to go. Mauro Icardi not on the Champions League list. He'll probably be moving on before the Turkish window closes. At least there's an expectation that'll happen. And I think it's just set up to be a really, really interesting week, first week of Champions League action. So it's definitely a situation to keep an eye on. Anyway, guys, before we go to our final thoughts, just saying thanks so much for listening to Qué Golazo. Please take a minute to leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're also available as video, so subscribe to us on YouTube. Visit us there. Guys, I'm going to go to Mike first. Final thoughts ahead of what is shaping up to be a fantastic week.
I was going to do this in my intro, but I'm just going to do it now. I've got Bob Marley and the Wailers in my head. Baby, don't worry if you're a United fan about a thing, because every little thing is going to be all right.
Is this that Ajax culture, like rubbing off on United fans already?
We are Ajax United FC. No, I'm just so happy. And I think with European football coming in to just free flow, and we're on the cusp of it, everything just makes more sense. And the Premier League teams, the Scottish teams in the Champions League, this is a year where there seems to be more balance in the soccer universe. I can't wait for European football.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be obviously not just the Champions League, also Europa League and even the conference. I mean, some of the groups, the way they've been drawn, it's terrific. It's a fun watch. But the Champions League in particular, the greatest club competition in the world, it's so exciting. The draw itself was phenomenal. And I think we've got 2 or 3 really dark groups. I mean, really, really tough groups to get out of. And then we've got 2 or 3 lighter ones where you would say there's a clear favorite and possibly a second favorite. But I think you'll see a few surprises, not just the one surprise this year. There'll be a few surprise results and there'll be a few surprise teams getting knocked out in the group stage. Clearly, we witnessed where the group of deaths are. So watch out for some of the opening fixtures, bring in some surprise results, because that's where match day 1, match day 2, you're going to start to see teams really struggle and teams really realize that they're in trouble in the Champions League this campaign. With a condensed schedule, the way they're going through domestically ahead of the World Cup, and a condensed schedule with Champions League, this is going to be very, very tough for a lot of teams. And you're recognizing the teams who have quality and depth on their bench and can rotate players might be the teams that survive the longest when it comes to the Champions League. But this is just thrilling. Can't wait. Really excited.
Yeah, fingers crossed it delivers in the way that we're all hoping. Well, that's enough from us, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in. And until next time, it's goodbye.